Angela Wamola, GSMA Sub-Saharan Africa Ed, Shiko Kitau, representatives from various countries, Uganda, Tanzania, Zambia, my colleague from ICT Authority, Stanley Kamankuya, Ambassador, private sector present here, Safaricom, Michael Mutika. Good morning. We are very excited to be here because of this very important discussion today about smartphones. For us as a continent, we've seen the data shared by Shiko, we've seen the data shared by Angela Wamola, and presents a very clear picture that calls for action for all of us. Good to see Kepsa Roberts Pioneer. It really presents and calls for action for all of us to address the missing gap. We've talked over transformation as a continent, Agenda 2063, the visions that we've had in various countries. Kenya, we have our Vision 2030 to really transform our country. And when we talk of transformation, we actually talk these principles, theoretical transformation, and real practical transformation that will really take our continent to the next level. We have our Vision 2030, which was anchored on 3 key pillars: transformation in our political sector, transformation in our social, and then the economic. And we've worked that journey. We've seen some of the results, key infrastructure that has been deployed in our country, and we can say a strong foundation has been laid for the country and so across many of our continents. We are towards the last stretch of our Vision 2030, and one of our transformational tools is the bottom-up transformation agenda that is focusing on 5 key areas. That's agriculture, MSMEs and cooperatives. We're looking at how to address housing, healthcare, and digital superhighway and creative economy. And this topic of today of smartphones plays a very key role on the area of the digital superhighway, or on its own as an enabler and also as an industry. When you look at Asian countries, Malaysia, Korea, Vietnam, they've been able to realize a transformation within a generation, something that has been so elusive to the African continent. And it's important for us to ask ourselves pertinent questions and really look at what do we need to do. This week we had a delegation from Malaysia, and we had conversations and attempts discussing about really the transformation that has happened in that region. And we realize we are well positioned as a continent. The data shown here, our population, our youthful, the potential market that we have, that everyone will be scrambling for, it is an opportunity that can really enable us to transform our continent within this generation, transform our countries within the generation and within our lifetime. And we are very optimistic. I think some of the data was a bit discouraging when you see, but this huge progress that we've made as a country. I think 2 years ago when we started discussing how do we start ensuring that as a country we are food sufficient. And within 2 years, really the country has moved. We've reduced our imports on some of our staple food, imports of sugar, and we can see a traction towards a secure country in terms of food. It means we can plan, we can action, and we can get the results that we desired. And that is the direction that we need to work as a country and as a continent. When we look at the connectivity, because digital economy is growing quite fast, and you are looking the many Gs that Angela talked, Africa has missed some of these transformation that has happened over the years, industrial first, second, and within this current revolution, we want to make sure our continent is not left out. the digital economy component is growing very fast. Countries are setting targets of what should constitute their economy in terms of digital economy. We have that potential as a country and as a continent. And as mentioned, coverage of broadband, mobile broadband is good, but still there is a huge gap which is reflected by the topic of today of devices. About 2 years ago, we had a conversation, how do we close the gap on connectivity of our country? And we explored options on how to accelerate. And through our digital master plan, we had already set a target of 100,000 kilometers, additional kilometers to be covered in our country. And we realized that's not the only gap. We've made good progress, and we said as we do that connectivity, one of the things we said, we want to see hyper manufacturing happening in our country. We are proud that with the support of ICT Authority, private sector Safaricom and the others, I think now almost 17,000 kilometers of fiber has been manufactured locally, showing the potential of our country. We also look at the aspect of smartphones, and we had many conversations in our offices with Safaricom and many private sector. As a concept, we engage many other players on how do we make it possible large-scale manufacturing of smartphones to happen in our country. This is something practically within the last 2 years. Michael is here and many others. And we are happy that that really happened with support of our National Treasury and through the Finance Bill of 2023-24. Some actions were done. And it's magical when we look back recently 2 weeks ago when KRA was listing the taxpayers of the year. We saw one name come out standing. For the first time, EDAC came out as one of the names mentioned, signaling a rise of a new industry in Kenya, which is an electronics industry manufacturing, smartphone manufacturing, and we can proudly say we are very proud as a country that within those 2 years, now we have almost 2.6 million phones locally manufactured and assembled here in the country. Can we clap for this private sector? There's still a lot of work to be done, as mentioned earlier, in terms of how many components on this can we say are locally sourced. We want to see how to enhance that percentage, and we are committed to stretch to the farthest possible. As a country and a continent, we've been discussing about semiconductor industry, which is the foundation of the electronic industry and emerging technologies. We've engaged global partners to see how we can accelerate this and make it a reality for our continent. We are very proud that through our engagement with the US and the last presidential visit to US state visit, we were able to get Kenya designated as a technology partner to the US, and also to be able to enable our private sector and the country to access the CHIPS Act of the US. We just need to make that a reality and operationalize. And as a country, we are the first in the continent to achieve that level. And it lays the foundation. We've seen STL in Dedan Kimathi, Savannah Semiconductors, we've seen the electronics, M-Copper, we've seen EDACT, we've seen Numeral, IoT, Gearbox, and many others who are now. And we are seeing that in 7 years, 10 years, our export structure as a country will probably change, that coffee and tea might not be our lead products. We are hoping to see electronics. The lessons we learned from Malaysia and Korea and the other Asian countries is that they really are to shift. Korea now, agriculture contributes probably 2% of their GDP. Ours is still large, but the rise of this electronic, driven by the smartphone, which is high demand. Kenya alone has 66 million devices, phones. And it means we can be able to create a demand of up to 15 million phones a year. That creates a huge market that EDAC and the other smartphone manufacturers and many more can take advantage of. And we have also the African Free Trade Area that creates an opportunity that we can create an interaction. And the interesting part for this electronics industry, going back to these Asian countries, you look at Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, what is their biggest export and what's their biggest import. You find they actually interact. What Singapore imports, it provides inputs to Malaysia. And what Malaysia provides gives input to Vietnam and so forth. So we need a lot of interaction within the continent, and that's the only way we can grow. We cannot grow on our own. I don't want to go beyond there. I just want to wish you all the best. We have another event that is running. We have our public sector hearing for the budget process, which in Kenya is really anchored on public participation, and we need to engage. I chair the sector for infrastructure, and I am making a presentation in a few minutes. But I'm really impressed by what Carla has done to bring all of us to have this great conversation and lay the foundation. What we want to encourage the entrepreneurs and the businesses is that the huge opportunity of business in the manufacturing sector, and in specifically the electronics industry, for our own demand and the exports across the continent. We need to start thinking and producing with export in mind, and you'll see the huge opportunities which will actually address some of our biggest challenges of unemployment. We are happy to see the great progress within that 2 years. When we look, we see the potential that we will create huge opportunities for employment for our engineers, our technicians, and various professionals in the electronics industry, led by the smartphone industry. So I want to encourage the private sector, and we assure you of support from government. We continue to celebrate, we continue to engage you and to visit you, and to see also the other accessories, those who manufacture the plastics industry, which is used in the electronics industry. We've seen accessories like power cables, Totosai, I saw them here. We need to encourage this ecosystem, and we need to celebrate these small steps that we are making as a country. It's not waiting for the big reality. The small steps, but we want consistent progress, and to engage as an industry and engage as government to make sure any challenges are resolved, so that we can realize the big dream of transformation we have as a country. All the best in the other discussions you have, and God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much. Engineer Tanu, I'll ask you just